Hi, I'm Rich from Dubai 92 and we've teamed up with Spinneys to show you how to make a simple yet irresistible and decadent dessert. All the freshest ingredients are available at Spinneys and this is where we've got everything. So what do we need to make Strawberry Roulade? For this recipe, what you're going to need is 4 free-range egg whites. I'm going to use this. It's available from all your Spinneys, and we need about 125 milliliters of egg whites. You're also going to need 225 grams of caster sugar, 200 grams of strawberries. We'll prepare those later on. 70 grams of pistachio nuts, 300 milliliters of fresh cream, 90 ml of elderflower cordial, and a little bit of mint for garnish. This is a very simple recipe. It's one of my store ones, one which takes about 20 minutes to make. You can keep it in the cupboard and it looks so impressive when you serve it at the table. First thing we need to do is we need to preheat the oven to 180 degrees centigrade. That's about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 4. So warm to hot oven, okay, not too hot, because we're going to make a meringue. Most meringues you cook in the oven at 100 degrees. We also need to make sure that the bowl we're making the meringue in is completely grease free. So when I start, I normally boil the kettle, put it in the water in, spit it out, take it out, and then wipe it with kitchen paper. That makes sure that the bowl is completely spotless. So I'm going to use a KitchenAid for this. You could use a whisk. You'll be beaten for a long time. So if you've got a whisk or a KitchenAid, that would be my advice to use that. So into the bowl we're going to add 4 egg whites. Make sure you don't get any of the yellows in this. If you get any of the yellow contains the fat, and then you will not get a proper meringue base. So I'm going to add from this about 125 milliliters would be 4 eggs. Okay. Basically to every egg white you're going to put 2 tablespoons of sugar in. And we can work around with this depending on how fresh the eggs are. We may need a little bit more sugar, a little bit less sugar. So putting the egg whites into the bowl, we're going to bring it to a whisk. As you can see, it's now gone white, so this is where we gradually add the sugar in, starting off with 2 tablespoons. Now you can add vinegar and cream of tartar and other things. If your eggs are fresh, you don't need it. When you see the eggs getting very cloudy like fluffy, we then slowly add in the rest of the sugar spoon by spoon. So that's 225 grams of sugar to 4 egg whites. We're now going to whisk this at full speed until stiff peaks have risen. That may take about 5 minutes. It should be strong enough that you hold the bowl over your head and nothing's going to fall out. Okay, so how do you know if your meringue is ready? Old fashioned, we just check it. And it's done. Very lucky. Okay, so we're going to just put the meringue to the side a minute while we prepare the pistachios. Now you don't need to use pistachios. If you're allergic to nuts, leave it out. So we're going to take 90 grams of pistachios and we're going to just finely crush them. So 90 grams of green pistachios, and we're just going to coarsely chop them with a sharp knife. Again, you don't need to use pistachios. You could use almonds if you wanted to. You could use hazelnuts. You could use nothing. You know, I just like the idea of texture because a meringue can be very fluffy, and sometimes you just like that extra crunch or a bit of texture running through a meringue. So once we have that, just cut it nicely. We move on to lining the trays. Using a Swiss roll tin, we are just going to line it first with a tiny bit of tin foil and then with some baking paper, non-stick baking paper. Now there's 2 different varieties of baking paper you get out there. There's grease-proof paper and there is baking paper. Okay, baking paper is non-stick, it's what we need to use for this. Grease-proof paper has other applications, I'll tell you about that later on, but make sure for this part you're using the baking paper, which is non-stick, okay? So line the tray with 2 pieces of paper, make sure you get right to the edge, and then just using a spatula, we're going to just line the tin. Now you can make this meringue up to 3 days before you need it, and you can keep it in the cupboard in an airtight container and it'll be perfect for you. Okay, so when we've got this done, we're just going to sprinkle it with a tiny bit of pistachio nuts. Again, at this stage you could use hazelnut, you could use sliced almonds, you could use praline, even a bit of white chocolate if you really wanted to. Like I said, this gives a nice bit of texture to the roulade when we roll it. Now we're just going to cook this in the oven, 180 degrees centigrade, gas mark 6, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 20 minutes. A lot hotter and a lot faster than we would cook traditional meringue. While the meringue's in the oven, we'll prepare the strawberries. So what we want is 225 grams of fresh strawberries. These are available from Spinneys. We're just going to hull them and slice them into 4. Put them into a bowl, we'll just keep them by the side until we're ready to use them. Once the strawberries are cut, we'll just save a few back for garnish, and we're going to make the cream that goes inside. So take in 300 milliliters of whipping cream, just pour it into the KitchenAid, or again you can whip this by hand if you have the patience for it. If not, use electronic beater. We're just going to blend this up gently. Making sure we don't over whip it. Now we want soft peaks with this, and we're not going to add any sugar because the meringues are already sweet enough with the addition of the sugar inside the meringue. So we're going to sweeten it with some elderflower cordial. Now I love the taste of strawberries, elderflower and pistachio with the meringue. I think it works so well. Again, you can change this out to something else. You can add icing sugar in its place. So instead of 90 milliliters of cordial, you could add yourself 30 grams of icing sugar. Or you could use blackcurrant or raspberry cordial or even strawberry and apple, something, make it your own. Like I said, I love the taste of elderflower. Right, so now we're forming soft peaks. We don't want to over whip it or we'll get our butter, so we're just going to add a tiny drop of the cordial to this, 90 milliliters. Ready until the meringue is needed. So we're going to just put that into the fridge and wait for the meringue to come out. Okay, so onto a piece of grease-proof paper. Last time we used baking paper, now we're going to use grease-proof paper. We're just going to put a sprinkling of caster sugar. This is what we're going to roll the roulade on in a minute. So the caster sugar basically is just going to act as a lubricant and actually allow us to roll it quicker, and also give it a little bit of a dusting as well. So now we're going to remove the meringue from the oven. It's been in there for about 23 minutes now. As you can see, it's gone a little bit golden brown on the side. So the tray is very hot at the moment. So what we want to do is we're just going to flip this out onto it using this baking paper, flipping it onto the icing sugar, okay? Remove the edges, don't remove the whole thing, and allow it to cool now for about 14 minutes. And so we can put the cream straight onto it. So after the roulade's been cooling for about 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to slowly remove the grease-proof paper. And as you can see, this meringue, normally it's crunchy, this is more chewy, and that's the kind of texture you want to get out of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to spread about 3/4 of the cream onto the roulade. Now we don't want to put too much cream on this because Again, we want it to be fairly light. With the flavours that we already have going on, we don't want to overpower it with the elderberry. So just push that out. We don't want to take it all the way to the top. We want to take it about an inch from the very top, and fairly thin, because remember the consistency of the meringue inside is already very soft and gooey. This is just basically to stick the strawberries onto the meringue as we go through. So just give an even coat of it, and now we're just going to slightly sprinkle the strawberries uniformly onto the meringue. Now, starting from the bottom, we're going to bring it up and we're just going to roll it as you would do a Swiss roll. When we get to the top, hold on to it, bring yourself a serving tray, and we're just going to lightly push that onto the tray itself using your palette knife. Now you could garnish it with some strong melted chocolate and just drizzle the chocolate over, or a tiny bit of icing sugar. I'm just going to leave it plain because I love seeing the pistachios shine through and the meringue, and it's basically a centerpiece to any table. And there you have your strawberry pistachio meringue.